There are two people that I have not seen in a very long time that I did not touch on in my intro. I mean, well, in my beginning review, so I'm going to go ahead and get that out the way. Precious Paul Ellering. For those who don't know who he is, go back and watch Legion of Doom matches. He was actually there when Legion of Doom was on the rise. Now, I don't know whether or not he was the reason why they broke up, or was it Sonny, but other than that, I do remember him briefly during the rise of Legion of Doom. But not completely all the way through. I was actually watching him towards just before he left, like towards the middle and before he left, not at the exact beginning. But go back and watch the beginning of old Legion of Doom matches. You'll see him there. This guy was a great promoter. And he also promoted himself a lot. Just like how Paul Heyman doesn't really promote himself. He promotes himself through the guy that he actually is promoting. But he was a definite heel manager. But then, in my opinion, it started to become about Precious Paul. I don't know what happened to him after that. But I do know that for those that don't know much about him, go back and watch old Legion of Doom matches. He was a decent heel manager. I got no beef with that. But it should be interesting. We haven't seen this guy in years. And all of a sudden, he just shows up out of nowhere. I'm actually curious to see exactly what they're going to do with Precious Paul Ellering. And see whether or not they're going to promote those two clowns, or a.k.a. the D'Lo Brown lookalikes, up to do something on NXT. Seeing how they beat up American Alpha, they might be feuding with them. But as long as they don't have them on the mic, but I have no idea if they're good talkers or not. I just know that nobody knows who they were. They were complete no names, but they just looked just like D'Lo Brown. And then we also saw Neville in the ring. Well, I mean, Neville outside the ring in the stands with the crowd. That was heartbreaking. I honestly would like to see him perform more instead of him being in the crowd, but that's what we're going to get. I have no idea when this dude's coming back, but that just broke my heart to see that. But other than that, guys, I'm interested to see where they're going to take NXT from here, especially for those who don't know much about Paul Ellering. Go back and watch his old matches with Legion of Doom. And as for Neville, we have no idea when he's going to be coming back. But I'm hoping he's going to be coming back soon. Kind of miss him. But let's move on to my review. Okay, NXT Takeover. NXT Takeover the beginning, or whatever it's called. Now, honestly, this was an amazing pay-per-view. There were some matches that actually did start off pretty slow. Maybe a little sluggish, but then started picking up. But this was an amazing pay-per-view. Now, there were some matches that I didn't know anything about and didn't really care that much about. Well, actually, there was only one. And that was Cien versus Ty Dillinger. I can't remember his whole name. I think it's Andrade Cien Almas versus Ty Dillinger. I know a lot about Ty Dillinger, the 10-10-10-10, but I don't know a lot about Cien. I actually expected a luchador. I get a masked luchador, but then when I actually did see the vignette or a little video beforehand, he's gonna go the complete unmasked route. I guess the same way as Sin Cara did when he was Hunico. But it was a pretty decent match. I have no beef with that. I mean, shoot, Cien is an amazing performer. I am now like literally interested about checking out some of his old matches when he was masked. But other than that, he is an amazing performer. But Ty Dillinger he didn't really outshine Ty Dillinger. That's why I enjoy this match a lot, because I thought Ty Dillinger would just look like a complete joke compared to Cien. But honestly, he didn't. He actually held his own. He made himself look great in this match. That's the one thing I enjoyed about it. He looked good. He didn't look bad at all. And honestly, that's why I enjoy NXT matches, because they actually allow the performers to perform and not have so many squash matches. They have squash matches, but not a lot of them. Every performer that gets in the ring is going to be a bona fide new star. And I enjoy that and respect that about NXT. And that's the one thing I did enjoy, even though I wasn't invested in it emotionally. This was a good match, by far. CN versus Ty Dillinger, that was a good match. I have no beef with that. Let's move on to the tag team titles. These are two tag teams I don't care much about. I don't care much about American Alpha because they remind me too much of Benjamin and Haas, and pretty much a hint of Kurt Angle tied up in there. Way too much Kurt Angle. So I don't really necessarily care that much for them because I don't see them being original. I just see them being carbon copies of Benjamin and Haas. So I didn't really care that much about them. I never cared about the Revival. But I will say this. That was a very choreographed, well done match. Like when it comes to actual hit points, like when you're supposed to hit your mark, they've been hitting their mark throughout the entire match. It looked amazing. It was well done, well choreographed, well executed. They had a lot of chemistry. I can't deny that. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, this looks choreographed. It was choreographed, but it was choreographed to where there wasn't any botches in it. Like, not like botches that's like extreme. It was well done. Very good match. American Alpha, I did not see that coming. I honestly thought they were going to take the titles. They end up losing their titles, which means that they're going to be going to the main roster. I would not be surprised if they're going to be around, probably not Money in the Bank, but honestly, all I can say is they're going to be moving up to the main roster, and they're going to be a part of the tag teams up there. So honestly, I got no beef with that. I really don't. They're going to probably be a part of the brand split now. So everybody that actually does lose, more than likely you might see them in the brand split. And I'm not going to be surprised if NXT is going to be a part of the brand split. That's probably why it's the end. It's not going to be the same developmental, the same indie zone that it used to be in. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to branch out into the main roster. And speaking of that, it really did piss me off, and they constantly keep doing this, how they have all these exclusives, things you need to know on their dumb Facebook page. Look, people are going to like your Facebook page regardless. You don't have to put just exclusive stuff there. You can actually put other stuff like backstage scenes, like backstage scenes, articles, stuff like that. I understand that. But when it comes to NXT and what's going to happen to it, it would have made more sense to have it on the show so people wouldn't have to go to your Facebook page and find out what's going on. Because that's what everybody wants to know. That's on the hearts and minds of everybody there. What is going to happen to NXT? So why didn't they have NXT, or why didn't they have Triple H talking in his interview, talking about NXT, have it on the show? We're gonna like your Facebook page anyway. Sometimes that's a bit overkill. Now I know that for some of the exclusive matches, especially for Samoa Joe, they actually did have the signing on the Facebook page. Fine. But when it comes to something as important as this, you should have it on the show. Just saying. So we won't have to go back and find out. But anyway, guys, now that it's going to be on the Facebook page, it's probably already done. So I'm going to go to their Facebook page, and the information there I'm going to put on my Wrestling Fan Nation page. So for those that really do want to see the interview, I'll try to put it on there for you guys to watch. But other than that, let's move on. They had all three titles that were actually up for grabs tonight. We just talked about the tag team. Let's talk about the women's title. Now, Asuka versus Nia Jax. I did not expect. I thought it was going to be completely one-sided. I thought that Asuka was going to dominate her. Oh my gosh. This was definitely, truly, 100% a women's version of David versus Goliath. It is, like, by far. I thought Asuka was going to break her legs down and just beat the crap out of her. And just be completely one-sided and done. But Nia Jax really did hold her own. She was a definite obstacle for Asuka. And I never expected Asuka to be struggling as much as she was. But she came through, man. Like, she found another way to chop the giant down, and she did. She got mad respect from me because she fought hard for that championship. The one thing that makes me happy was that Asuka, by far, did not in any way, shape, or form give up. I respect that a lot about her. And honestly, it makes me happy that she didn't lose, because I don't want to see her a part of brand split. Not now. Not now at all. Not now. Because the one big problem that I have with the main roster is that they dumb every single fighter down from their performances that literally define who they are in NXT. They wire them down to nothing. She is the queen of strong style, the queen of tomorrow. She uses strong style like it's nobody's business. Those women will not be able to handle her. None of them will. Not the four horsewomen. Well, I guess we can't really say four horsewomen because Bayley's not there yet. But definitely not Charlotte. Definitely not. Sasha Banks could probably handle her. Possibly can. No, actually no, because she was gone before they actually did fight. So honestly, no, they probably wouldn't be able to handle her style, and they would have to dumb her style down for them. And I don't want that. That's Vince's territory. Let's keep it with Triple H, because at least Triple H got some common sense. If he sees some talent when it's coming from these people, he's not going to wire them down. He's going to let them be who they are. So I'm happy that Asuka is where she is, and Nia Jax is going to probably be a part of the brand split. So I'm straight with that. So we need a monster. That's the one thing we need. We need a monster for the women's division, because the women's division is starting to get bland. They don't know what to do with these chicks. They over promoted them. They have to figure something out. They got to give them something to do. So the one thing that needs to be done is that we need to have a dominant female to take the belt for a few months and motivate these chicks to work harder. So Nia Jax needs to be a part of the brand split. Fine with that. Now let's move on to the supposed main event of the night, the second main event of the night. And I'm going back to Nia Jax versus Asuka, I enjoyed it. I really did. It actually did show the struggle for us, Asuka, at first, and then it started building up to something great. It started showing that she started using strategy and figuring out a way to chop the giant down. She was able to chop the giant down. I enjoyed it, really did. Now, moving on to the main event of the night. Now, in my opinion, this is the second main event of the night, because there is one main event, and I'm going to go back to that match. But other than that, let's talk about Samoa Joe versus Finn Balor in a steel cage in the main event. I'm going to be real with y'all. I was kind of disappointed. I was kind of disappointed with this match, because this match really felt slow. Samoa Joe's a fast dude. He's a hard-hitting guy. It felt one-sided at first because Finn Balor came out as a demon. All this dramatics and stuff. We know that how dramatic Finn Balor's entrances are. By far. We know this. But honestly, I knew all the dramatics would mean nothing, because I really thought that Finn Balor was going to be at least even with Joe. And every match he was in with Joe felt like a battle. This didn't feel like much. It really didn't. I had a feeling that Samoa Joe was going to retain. But the one thing that kind of bugged me is no one used the door. I'm like, dude, the door is there. Use the door. You don't have to climb out. And Finn Balor, of course, he had to do it for dramatic sake, because I knew he wasn't going to win. He had to be as slow as molasses getting up there. And then all of a sudden, he just had to stop and look at the crowd. I'm like, dude, just get down. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to win. Samoa Joe pulled him down, but Samoa Joe was knocking him hard. It looked like the demon didn't even break through the entire time. I'm like, he fought his all in every match he was in with Joe. And it felt weird. It felt strangely one-sided. And it was slow as molasses. And I couldn't get into it. Probably because of the fact that I was really, really, really burnt out after Shinsuke versus Austin. But I'll get into that in a bit. But other than that, guys, I'm going to say the main event kind of fell short for me. It really did. And it was probably because of the expectation of the main event of this, of my personal main event, happened a few matches prior. So that's why I didn't really care much about this match. It wasn't horrible. These guys were great performers. They give it their all. This was a very, very, very promoted match. Like like storyline wise, this was really pushed to the hilt. And how they did it on house shows, how they did it on the show itself, this was pushed to the hilt. This was a storyline for the making. And especially how Finn Balor reacted towards everything and how he was very aggressive towards the end. He just fell short for me. And that was heartbreaking. It was not by far a horrible match. It just was really slow and not, I'm not going to say not executed as well, but when it came to Finn Balor, I thought I expected a little bit more from him. But I didn't really get that much. But it wasn't bad by far. It wasn't. It was a great match. But I guess I just wasn't so emotionally invested in it because of this main event. And the main event, in my opinion, of the night definitely was Shinsuke Nakamura, or Nakamura Shinsuke versus Austin Aries. That's pretty much what it was. That's what it was. Everybody was rooting, was behind Shinsuke. Nobody cared that much about Austin Aries. I love me some Austin Aries. Austin Aries is definitely the greatest performer that's ever lived. But I'm all about the King of Strong Style. I'm sorry. I love me some Shinsuke Nakamura. And honestly, Shinsuke had, I'm not going to say he had some competition, but I know he probably had to dumb himself down a little bit for Austin Aries. But Austin Aries, he gave it a performance of a lifetime, man. That dude just flew through the ring like suicide dive off the ropes. That guy was literally just going and going. He knew how Shinsuke was. He literally actually adjusted himself to Shinsuke and fought harder. You saw the adjustment in the ring. Shinsuke was being Shinsuke, but he had to push harder too because Austin was taking him down a few times. And usually when it comes to his fights, he adjusts in the ring to his performers. I've actually seen some old work by Shinsuke Nakamura, and I have seen Shinsuke versus Ishii. For those who have not seen New Japan, go back and watch his match with him versus Ishii. Ishii was a tougher obstacle than Austin Aries, but you can see how he had to literally adjust himself in the ring towards his opponent in order to win. He did the exact same thing with Austin Aries, and I've seen on Twitter that a lot of people believe that he needed the win, that Austin Aries needed to win more than Shinsuke. That's true, but I want Shinsuke to stay where he's at. I don't want him to go to the main roster. I would not be surprised if we actually do see him on the main roster. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But if you honestly think about it, I'm happy that he might not be there because he's going to have to adjust himself to their style. And we know how Austin Aries is when it comes to adjusting anything to his own, to anybody else's style. That may not work at all. But I didn't forget about Bobby Roode behind the scenes, especially during the backstage promo that we had with William Regal. I don't know what they're going to do with him. There's been way too many teases. I don't know why it's been held off this long. Maybe that kind of blows my theory out the window when it comes to him being the seventh guy in the Money in the Bank. But honestly, I don't know what they're going to do with Bobby Roode. It was cool to see him flash across my screen. But I'm like, dude, when are you going to make your debut? It will be nice to actually see you perform. It will actually be nice to see him on the main roster going up against AJ Styles. But now AJ Styles is feuding up against John Cena, so they got to wait on that after Money in the Bank. But other than that, it would be great to actually see him at SummerSlam. It really would be. But right now, we don't know where Bobby Roode's going to be. But other than that, my overall thoughts is this. This was an excellent pay-per-view. And they had fewer matches, but fewer matches that were hard-hitting. Like, these matches were not dull by any means, any way, shape, or form. This was an amazing match. This was an amazing pay-per-view. Every match was amazing, except for the main event. The main event was slow, but it was not bad. It was hard-hitting. You actually was a little bit invested, maybe. But for me, I didn't really care that much because I was already burnt out after Shinsuke versus Aries. But other than that, it was not a horrible match. But every single match before it was amazing. The main event could have been better, but my feelings towards that was probably based towards me being burnt out. But speaking of being the crowd, speaking of that, emotions and stuff, the crowd was amazing. The crowd at Full Sail, those kids love NXT. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe that'll be the last NXT they're going to have at Full Sail. So they definitely did just take it to the hill. Well done, fans. But guys, what are your thoughts towards NXT TakeOver? Leave a comment in the comment section below. I think it was an amazing pay-per-view. I do hope they have their own... They're still going to have NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, which shows that they're not going to completely give up on the brand, which makes me very happy to see that. And honestly, I would not believe that TakeOver Brooklyn is going to be amazing, because TakeOver Brooklyn was the time when we saw the Iron Women match. It's going to be amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. But guys, what are your thoughts? Leave in the comments below. I am out of here to rest my voice. This is Naturegirl 30 signing off. Peace out, y'all. Later.